Hello and welcome to a very special episode here at Jardin du Mayfair, heaven on earth for the watch enthusiast. Today I have two very special guests with me. It's Tom and Josh from What's on Watches, and they are vintage watch dealers.
Thank you very much, Oscar.
Thanks, Oscar.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, nice to have you.
Thanks very much, my friend.
Welcome. So to get started, I've got a bit of liquid
Lovely.
gold for you.
Social lubrication,
Yeah.
we call it.
Dutch courage.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's the best,
Let's
yeah.
go generous. Yeah, I'll be in trouble for that because it is a single malt rare cask. Enjoy,
It's
gentlemen,
spoiled on us,
please.
but thank you
Yes,
very much.
enjoy. Wish I could join you. Okay, so I've got some questions for you guys. I wanted to say, if you haven't seen my video on the boys channel, please do check that out. I'll put the link in the description. They came down around a month ago. We got some amazing watches out, so check that video out. And I've brought them some new things that they haven't seen yet to surprise them with today. So gentlemen, let's get started. I've prepared some questions for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So first things first, how did you two meet?
It's a bit of a strange one, really.
Yeah.
I've actually known Josh since we were in school. And funnily
It
enough,
wasn't long ago.
it wasn't that long ago. You wouldn't believe it looking at me personally, but yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Ironically, Josh and I grew up in the same village. For a time, we lived on the same street. We went to the same school, but if you couldn't tell, Josh is a little bit younger than me. So at school, we didn't have too much in common, but we grew closer when Josh bought a watch from me.
Yeah.
Back in my retail.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you bought an Amiga Seamaster?
Amiga Seamaster 300, the ceramic one. I booked him up for some discount, as you do.
As you do.
Not spoke to you in years, but you know, after a watch, can you do a bit of a deal? And been talking about watches ever since, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
And and it's all sort of developed from there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we know what you sell, but what do you guys wear on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, last time I was with you, I wore my 3861 Speedmaster. Really nice watch. Bought it on the same day we actually started our watch business, the online dealership.
Yeah.
So it's significant for that reason. A little vintage Rolex, a 6427 from the 70s, manual wind, dinky. That's what I like. And then I've also got a solid gold 18 karat Omega DeVille Prestige, a little quartz one. I inherited it. It's really lovely, really classic. And I tend to save that for best nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm actually wearing my daily beater today. This is my Amiga Aquaterra. It's the most boring watch in the world. But it's the most special watch to me. This was the first ever Swiss watch that I actually went out and bought. And it's been on my wrist for pretty much every key moment in my life, the birth of my daughter, that sort of thing. So it carries huge sentimental value. And I've had quite a few watches over the years, but I actually sold the vast majority of them quite a while ago when we started this business.
Yeah, so yeah, that's brilliant. I was actually going to say something about your Speedmaster, which was, it was the first time I'd seen the new proper one. And I had read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, but I'd read somewhere that the sales of the Speedmaster after the Moon Swatch collaboration had gone up 72% from Omega. So
because that's all I did to my friends who bought moon swatches. Like, oh, let's get the real one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's good for everyone.
It was clever, and it's brought a lot of new people to the industry as well. So it's definitely been something that's been good for all of us. So I understand that in order to make the switch from watch tech to watch dealer, you guys financed by selling some of your own watches, which you've told us about. So did you buy any of them back once you established the company? And if not, have you got your eye on getting any of them back?
It was you that sold your watches, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You sold your watches. I just had some money stashed away.
Right.
Contributed. Same with Lewis, the third guy.
Yeah.
But he's not here today.
Yeah, so obviously the idea for What's on Watches started, and I just found out I was going to be a father. I just bought a house, and I knew that if we didn't start this business now, it was never going to start. So to be able to afford that, obviously I had a few watches that I do miss. My tastes have changed a little bit, but I had a 11660 black sub. I had the green sub as well, and I had a really nice tapestry dial Datejust. They all had to go, unfortunately, but the Amiga stayed. The one that I would probably buy back realistically would be the black sub.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly like looking for it because I prefer the vintage stuff, but that was the first Rolex that I ever bought from an AD. My name's on the card, so if anybody out there has something with Thomas Watts on the card, please let me know, and we'll see what we can do.
So, fantasy watch box scenario. 6 watches, 3 vintage, 3 modern. You can fill it together if you like. You don't have to do
I'll
it
let you
each.
kick off.
All right, okay. Well, I knew you were going to ask me this, and this actually kept me up last night.
Right.
6 watches, and I don't want to bore you too much, but I seriously thought about this in depth.
Okay.
So, I personally tried to break it down, and I think we both had like a diver's piece, a solid gold piece, a chronograph, a dress watch, a high complication piece, and an everyday piece. Starting off for me with a vintage diver. I know it's so boring, and I know the audience is going to be rolling their eyes, but for me, I'd go for a 5513 sub. That would be particularly the one with the maxi dials, particularly for myself, the Mark III maxi dial is my personal favourite. Nice matte dial, large tritium lume plots. But the good thing is, my opinion with the 5513 is you've got quite a bit of that, Rolex heritage of the Submariners, but you've got that ability to wear it daily as well. Because you've got some, it's still got the plexiglass and all that sort of stuff, but it's a really nice, versatile diver's watch.
Absolutely has to be maxi dial for me, so I'm in total agreement there. Yeah.
What was your first show?
In terms of vintage divers,
Yep.
it's maybe neo vintage, really cheeky. But the watch I've actually got on today, a 16600, a Sea Dweller. Basically, I think these sort of early 2000s pieces from Rolex are so clean. And I love the aluminium bezel. That's slightly dull finish compared to the ceramic. Like the fact it's going to age over time. And also the case dimensions compared to a sub. This just seems, I think because of the depth, it's like 14.3 or 6.
14.8, I think.
14.8 mil, maybe. Don't quote us on that. But because it's a little bit deeper, the case seems to be a little bit rounder.
Yep.
Whereas a sub seems a little bit flatter. And I just really, really love it.
Yeah.
Really love it.
I'm a really big fan of the Sea Dweller, and the 16660, I believe I can get in a birth year. So I've always wanted to do that. The 16660 in a birth year. I think that's like a true tool watch because you really can wear and batter it rather than like a double red or something like that where you're not going to be able to. Exactly.
That little special.
There you go.
escape valve.
Helium escape valve just makes it happen. Yeah, great choice.
So vintage solid gold piece. I know it's another Rolex, and we're not trying to be boring, but I always feel like a solid gold day date is just such a staple of a watch collection. Now, we were talking about this. The 1803 aesthetically is very appealing with the pipe and dials.
My choice.
That's your choice in white gold, isn't it?
Yeah, with a blue dial.
Nice.
And the pipe hand really makes it work.
Yeah.
I like the white gold. It's not as in your face.
I like the white gold.
Yeah, and it's a little bit special. And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more garish. I would go yellow gold because if you're going to go solid gold day date, you've got to go all the way out. But I wouldn't go for a 4-digit because I would probably want a double quick set.
Yeah, quick set, yeah.
So an 18238, I think with a white dial,
Yeah.
that would be the one I'd go to.
So it's interesting you mentioned those as well because I've seen prices on those at the moment seem actually extremely reasonable at time of recording. So, there's actually a lot of watch in there for the money, especially if you can pull off 36 mil. Unfortunately, I can't. Every time I put a 36 mil watch on, it never looks good on me. I'm desperate to see that jigsaw puzzle one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to track down one of those right now, but the size is the only problem for me, but I think if you can pull those off, there is no better value precious metal watch on the planet.
I'd agree. If Tony Soprano could pull
Yeah.
it, I'm sure you
Hey,
can as well.
it's true. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got it. You got it in one. Yeah.
What's our next choice for the watch box for the vintage side?
Okay, right. So we went dress watch. Now, again, lots of controversy. Shout out the Calatrava with a hobnail bezel. Absolutely love that. I was going to suggest some Cartier, but I'm actually going to go for something on the modern side now. Personally, I would go for a Vacheron Traditionnel tourbillon
Okay.
because it's still very traditional, very, very clean. A tourbillon is an awesome complication. I think put that on a black leather strap, you've got a really perfect dress watch there.
Yeah.
And I also want to get some of the Holy Trinity in this 6-piece watch box.
Yeah. Of course.
Went for-
I mean, it's not really dressy, but I would wear it as a dress watch, and that would be a solid gold Cartier Santos.
Nice.
Very golden gecko.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of the coolest watches.
Fashionable now
Yeah,
too.
oh, yeah, it's fashionable now too. But if it was stylish back then, It's come back around. It's probably going to carry on doing the
Of
same.
course.
And I think that's a real conversation starter,
Yeah.
for sure.
If you couldn't tell from the wide lapels we often wear, Wall Street culture is very much in at what's on watches at the moment.
I love that.
80s Wall Street culture. We've all just bought brick phones. That's how we communicate.
But we should put the modern side now.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Basically, a Langerns and a datograph up down. Okay, and it's the platinum model that I really like, and it's because when I was younger and I was working in retail, I was selling speakers and headphones at Bose.
Okay.
And I was wearing my little 18 karat Omega, and a guy came in with the Langerns and I said to him, "Is that what I think it is?" And he just whacks off this platinum Langerns on a watch, the most expensive thing I'd witnessed at the time.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, just there you go, and just like passed it to me. He was like, try it on, and this guy was wearing like my £2,000 Omega. And he was like, this is gorgeous. And I was trying not to drop like the house up north, basically, and just been obsessed with them ever since.
That's lovely. That is a lovely story.
I also have a Langer. I said I wanted a high complication piece, and I was very fortunate actually. When I was 19, I actually got to visit the manufacturer of Langer again back in the retail days, and I tried on a watch while I was there, and it goes against everything I've said, smaller case sizes, all that sort of stuff. I tried on the Zeitwerk, the decimal strike in honey gold, and I've been in love with the watch ever since. It's huge. It's over 44 mil. I think it's 44.2. But from a complication perspective, it's just epic. And in my opinion, and I know again controversial, but nobody finishes a movement like a Langerson. That is just my opinion, but all the different types of finishing you see through the open case back, it's just out of this world. So that would be in mine. One watch that we did share in common that we would wear as a sort of an everyday piece, the 15202 AP.
Yeah.
Again, appeals, 39 mil, slightly smaller than the 15400 or the 15500, but the slimmer profile of the jumbo is just awesome.
It just does everything.
Yeah.
It just does everything.
So going back to what I said about the sizes of watches, that's the only one I'll completely just write off all my rules for. I actually recently got to try on the 15202 IP with the smoke green dial, platinum, smoke green dial. Oh, that is a watch and a half. That thing.
I've never seen one of them in person, but the photos, they look incredible.
That is a good watch. Very, very good watch.
This in the last video, it makes me laugh when we look at like 15202s. Again, looking back at my retail days, we had a 15202 sat in a cabinet. It was the rose gold version. We had it sat in there for over 6 months, and nobody wanted to buy it. And these days, if you offered one of them, you'd have a queue outside the door. Out of this world. But yeah, they're great watches. But
interestingly, that watch now, as of sort of time of filming again, they're down. In a really good value proposition now. They've come right down. So that is a sick watch for the money. I really love that watch, and I think it's
Oscar's got two for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do.
We've got one more for the modern watch box, haven't we?
Okay.
You've got one more for modern. I've got one more for vintage. I'll let you
know. The white gold Daytona with the deep blue dial. I can't remember the reference number. Off the top of my head. But trying one of those on, I never used to be a Daytona, like modern Daytona guy.
Yeah.
And now, after putting it on, the proportions work so well. The white gold with that deep blue, I don't know what it is, but that one does a blue dial like Rolex.
Yeah.
We've said it in many videos before.
Yeah.
And the little red accents on the dial, it's perfect.
I know the watch well, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And their white gold, it shines just beautiful.
For me, I wanted a vintage chronograph to finish the box because I've had 3 modern now, and it was really difficult because you talk about vintage chronographs, and like, for example, the one you've got there, that is out of this world. And, I thought Ed White Speedmasters, vintage Hoya, but then I thought, well, there's only
6 isn't enough.
6 is not enough to choose from.
Everything.
we could sit
world.
Here all day.
Exactly. But I think the last one for me is a 3971 Patek.
Okay.
So it's a chronograph.
Yeah.
So I've got the chronograph, but I mean, it's not like the traditional racing chronographs that I like, but I went for the 3971 because all the 3971s have the open case back, and who doesn't want to look at a Patek movement? They're incredible. You still got that chronograph, you've got the perpetual calendar complication, so I thought that would top off my watch box. I've got the Holy Trinity, I've got Rolex, and I've got a bit of high complication, and I'm happy.
Boys, I have to say, your selections, like, very classy, very not of your age, which is just amazing. So congratulations to you. I think these are great boxes. I look forward to seeing you fill them as your journey continues. Hey, you will. You keep going the way you're going.
For no reason, we'll just be saying blank pan scooters for every single one, and we'll just show our age.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom, I see that you've spoken on your Instagram about the Gucci watch that your dad handed down to you. You referenced that it's the most valuable watch in the world to you. Was it the one that started it all, or did he give it to you because you were already into watches?
Yeah, so I got gifted that for my 18th birthday. I was already into watches.
Okay.
I started in the industry when I was 16, so I already had the bug. My dad recognised that because I was just bombarded him with watch information constantly. And this Gucci, since I was born, it was the only watch he ever wore. My dad wasn't into watches. When he bought that Gucci, he tried on loads of different watches, and it was just the one that he liked. And he bought one watch that he liked, and he wore it for the rest of his life. And every single memory I have with my dad, he was wearing that Gucci watch. So when it came to my 18th birthday, and he presented it to me, and for somehow, I don't know why he did, he kept the box, he'd kept everything with it, and he presented it to me on my 18th birthday. And that was the moment. I already had the bug for watches, but that was the moment I went, oh, this is what watches are about.
Yeah.
It's not I don't mind saying, and my dad wouldn't be very happy if he heard me say this, but I don't like particularly the aesthetics of it. It's a quartz Gucci. It's not valuable at all, but sentimentally, it's priceless. And that's what, in my opinion, made me realise, oh, this is what watch collecting's about. Every single memory I have of my daddy was wearing that watch. And now that's my turn to carry on that legacy and those memories.
Okay, guys, so obviously your specialism is vintage and neo-vintage watches. You post a lot of tanks and Datejusts and vintage Omegas. What, in your opinion, is the quintessential vintage watch to have in your collection?
That's a good question. It's a tough one, isn't it?
There's so many layers to that and so many different angles you can take. But I mean, if it's one watch, and we're talking about it practically, because let's be honest, unless you're really into this, not many people are willing to throw tons and tons of money. So if we're talking about the quintessential like vintage watch, and one that's probably accessible relative to the price of watches, still a lot of money. I think the Rolex Datejust.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I just think does it all, dress it up, dress it down, throw it on a leather strap.
And you've got so many references with the Datejust as well. I mean, again, going vintage, you've got the 4 digits, 1601s, the 1603s, and then you go into the 5 digits, and you get all them little upgrades throughout. You know, when you get up to the 16234s and the 16220s, and you've got the sapphire crystal. We find so many people who are getting into vintage watches start with like a 36mm sapphire crystal Datejust, because it is the ultimate Rolex. It's not really changed since 1945 when it was introduced.
Money's no issue.
Exactly. Yeah. So
essential vintage Rolex is
sat right there. Yeah.
There's so many ways you can look at that. But I think for like most people,
it's personal preference too, because people might not like Rolex. And like if you have a Cartier customer, then you say 29mm Santos or Tank Louis,
original Nautilus.
The 3800 is the quintessential. There's so many options out there. I mean,
it's a hard question.
It's a hard question with lots of answers. But
what I've learned since following you guys and following your journey is that to start building a vintage watch collection, you don't need to remortgage your house. No. What I see of your guys' offerings a lot of the time, it seem very reasonable for what you actually get. So it's nice to know that there is, a way in to vintage starting at the kind of more reasonable levels.
And we sell everything from a tank must for about £1,800, £1,900, all the way up to day dates. And we sold a couple of day dates the other day, and the same day we sold a must. We still get the same amount of satisfaction from both of them.
Lovely.
Both great
I'd
stars.
actually argue that if we sell like a really lovely little constellation for a couple grand versus like a day date, I'm happier when that constellation sells. Because a lot of the time we get people buying their first vintage watch, and when you've got a really nice example and it's going to a really, really good home, not that any of the watches don't, but when it's someone's starting point.
I know exactly what you mean.
Journey that you went on, and it's a nice feeling.
It's always constellation customers are some of the most interesting as well, because they come to you and for your first Amiga, you're like, oh, can I have a pipe pan constellation? Like, oh, okay, you're going to build a man of taste. You're going to build a really good collection. Sometimes we get that. What's the cheapest Rolex I can buy?
Exactly.
But when somebody comes to us like with a list of specifics for their first watch, I'm like, yeah, cool, you're on the right side.
Nice, I love that.
Then eventually they'll be with you buying solid gold Daytona.
They all end up
slope.
there somewhere,
Yeah,
as we
I
know.
was gonna say.
The remortgaging the houses seems to happen quite regularly in both
Process.
worlds.
I'll do it.
That's why we're here today, really. A few more of these.
Some mortgage
We're
advice.
shopping, yeah.
Very good. So I've recently caught up with your art list challenges, and I see that you're taking suggestions. Have you already got one thing in mind that you plan on doing for an Adventurous review? And would either one of you get in a shark cage with a Submariner?
That's on the list.
Yeah, that is on the list actually.
Okay.
So the thing we're thinking about doing for that is taking 4 Rolexes and testing them in the most extreme versions of what they were designed for.
Right.
So like a GMT,
Yeah.
like if we was to test that, we'd just go on like business class and
Yeah.
review it in business class. But we want to strap ourselves to the outside of a plane. We want to do things like skydiving
Yeah.
and try and review the watch at the same time.
Yeah.
The shark cage is definitely on there.
Yeah.
Taking a Submariner somewhere like South Africa and going diving with great whites and trying not to wee in our wetsuits for one, and 2, also try and review the watch at the same time whilst trying not to get eaten.
And he just wants me to get malaria.
Yeah, we want to take.
That's all he keeps saying. He wants to take us to the jungle and
Yeah.
watch me get malaria wearing an Explorer.
Because an Explorer up a mountain is an obvious suggestion.
Yeah.
A good one, but it is first one that comes to mind. So I said, well, if we take an Explorer, why don't we go on a real expedition through the jungle? See if Tom gets malaria. We'll eat some bugs. Do some crazy challenges, climbing stuff, eating horrible things, sleeping rough. Yeah.
You just want to kill me.
Yeah, for the views.
The views are nothing.
So I have an interesting one which was suggested that I jump out of the plane in a Saru, and then there was a joke about it because we could get the insurance for me but not for the Saru, and we were more concerned about the Saru apparently. So
It's nice to know where people's priorities are, isn't it?
exactly
If
that.
you crash to the ground, it's the watch and not you. Yeah, that's good to know.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't come with boxing paper.
No, exactly that, yeah. Okay, Josh, can you wade in on the great watch size debate? We've already touched on it a bit in this video, but vintage watches obviously being a lot smaller with a range of 34 to 40 millimeters. You're a big lad and you have a history of fitness. Do you tend to wear larger pieces like your Speedy all the time, or do you switch between moon watches and smaller pieces?
Well, we spoke about taste changing earlier, didn't we?
We did.
And this is starting to happen with my Speedmaster.
Okay.
With the Speedmaster I bought before we really got the business going. And now, sometimes I'm putting it on and I'm going, it's a lovely watch, but when I put something like this on, which is probably only 2 mil smaller, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think, the 40, the 39 is sort of as big as I'd like to go.
Yeah.
But I think it was like 36 mil, for example, was a classic gent size for such a long period of history. And pendulums always swing back and forth. And we're starting to see watch brands introduce smaller models. Tudor at Watches and Wonders, for example. I think if people could pull it off then, they'll be able to pull it off now. But it's all personal preference. You just wear what you want. Don't wear something because someone told you to do it. If you like it, you go for it.
Yeah.
But I've noticed the pattern, and we're starting to see it come back the other way. And I also think it's really cool when you see someone wearing the vintage case size. You know they're probably into it to make their own informed decision instead of just buying what their mate got. You probably have a good chat with that guy.
Okay, since we've just wandered into dangerous territory with sizing, polishing vintage watches. Boys, do you leave them as they are to show their past lives, or do you return them to minty fresh for the straight out of factory finish?
That's a fantastic question because there's so many different opinions out there. We've just been in Amsterdam filming with Jasper from Amsterdam Vintage Watches, and he did a full video on box and papers are rubbish, polishings, it's all irrelevant. It completely depends upon the watch, to be honest, particularly when it comes to ourselves. We try and keep watches as original as possible, particularly those ones that come with a story. So if you've had a Submariner from somebody that's used it for diving, and each scratch tells a little story, and there's a reason to keep that there. I think with the neo vintage side of things, so particularly the early 2000s models, I personally, I don't know if you agree, I don't think there's any harm in returning that to its original condition if it's done in the correct way. Over polishing, and if it's polished poorly, it kills the watch. And that's so obvious. We see so many watches come to us and they've been polished by a jeweler, and he's just done it like that, and you lose all of the details, the beveled edges, all them sort of things disappear. But if you get it done correctly and it doesn't over polish the case and you get laser lapping, I don't think there's any harm in that personally.
Yeah, I think for anyone like thinking about it, or maybe even thinking about selling watches yourself, a good safety net that we tend to use is sell it as it is. And if someone wants it polished, it's their watch. They're buying it. It's up to them.
Yeah.
And it gives people the option then.
Yeah.
We do get that.
Yeah.
People say, I'd love it to look box fresh. We sold a really nice Submariner the other day, a 16800, and it was completely original and full set. It was beautiful. And it was going to the gentleman's wife. And he said, listen, I personally wouldn't get this polished, but I know my wife would want it to look crispy and box fresh. So I was like, it's your watch, your discretion. We can have that arranged.
Yeah.
So it's personal preference. I mean, we get so many questions. Has it been polished? That sort of
Yeah.
and I think it's a box tick question that people think to ask. Does it have box and papers? But there's so many nicheties. I mean, vintage watches and box and papers, we can bang the drum about. They don't matter in our opinion.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, you need the box and papers for authenticity. Well, you don't. You don't authenticate a watch with box and papers. You authenticate the watch. You can have box and papers with a fake watch. Doesn't make it real.
Yeah.
Vice versa, you can have a real watch with fake box and papers.
Yeah.
People think, well, I can add a couple of £100 onto my sale here. Or in some cases, thousands of pounds if it's a really important watch.
Yeah.
And that's when people are taking blank papers from the 70s, keeping them in a book so they smell old, and then getting the actual print machines for the punch holes, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, with the vintage stock that we have to sort of wade on it from our side, you know, with the 6262 Paul Newman that I showed you guys last time, our 3700 Nautilus, this 6263, extremely special. We generally only look for things that are unpolished. You know, we prefer if it's looking like it's got scratches and things like that, because if it's been worn properly, our Mark IV that I showed you, you know, these people are using these things. They come with all the different papers and everything that shows that, you know, it's had dives with it and stuff like that. And it's like, I think that's really important with vintage. You know, if you're going to buy it, you've got to buy it properly.
Yeah.
Your 6262 is a prime example of where box and papers is actually really good.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just have the box and papers, it's got service history, it's got purchase receipts, it's got service all from the jewelers where it came from.
Yeah.
That is heritage.
Yeah.
So that's great. That adds value. But if it's a generic box with some generic papers, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And never let a good deal stand in the way for box and papers.
A very good advice. Yeah. If anyone wants to see the video on the 6262, there is a full video on the channel now. Okay, we've all been here as watch dealers. Which watch have you sold to a client that you wish you could have just kept for yourself?
I know.
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
It was the first day date we ever sold.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the first day date we ever sold. It was crispy. It did have the pipe and dial as well, didn't it?
1803.
It was perfect, and it was one of the first watches we got as a business. We were so lucky. But this guy wanted to sell it with us, a consignment style, and he was just like, "Oh, you seem like good chaps. I trust you. Here's my watch, and you know, go sell it." And I remember putting that on my wrist.
Yeah, it was
and going for a drive on a nice sunny day to go film a video with it somewhere, and then on the hands on the steering wheel, looking at this watch. I was like, "Wow!" Like it sounds so silly, but at the time I was like, "I'm a watch dealer." I've made it.
And I think that was the second watch we ever sold as well, wasn't it? It was and it went to a good home, obviously, but we were sad to see that go. I think for myself, it was the 5513. We had a 5513 sub. It was obviously I know I mentioned the 5513 sub earlier on, but this was a late 80s model. So we didn't have the maxi dial. It had the white gold, the white gold markers, but it was still tritium, and it had aged perfectly, and the condition was immaculate. We had the watch for a little while. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and eventually we sold it to a really nice guy who was a big collector, and that was a sad watch to see go. But we've got one coming in that has already been sold, and I know I'm going to regret it. We've got an 18238 blue dial day date coming in, and that's going in. It's already pre-sold. If it's literally, we were getting it in, and a good client of ours wanted it, and I know I'm going to really kick myself for selling that so quickly. It's going to be sad to see that go.
It's interesting how we get attached to these things. So since we filmed our last video, I had the Supersonnery there. So we've since sold that. So it's one of 35 pieces. I don't. Yeah. Well, there you go. You see. So I don't expect to see that watch again for a while, right? And you know, I was doing so much filming with it, that noise. Then the next day after it had sold, I was sitting there listening to the reel on my iPhone, like,
It's your voice.
and I was so happy for the client, so happy for the client. But obviously, it's just funny how these little things, we get so attached to them, you know.
That is the best thing though about this whole business, isn't it?
100%.
Like seeing someone's face.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They've been saving for ages. They've had it on their minds for
Yeah.
years. And you finally give it to them, and it's the cherry on top.
Yeah. He put it straight on his wrist, hit the thing, ding, 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 and his face just lit up, you know.
I can imagine Oscar listening to Everybody Hurts by RBN, listening to the sounds of the minute repeat, gently playing, crying, a little tear, just...
Exactly that. There is actually a new one out, and I'm hoping we might get that at some point. It's got red now, red dials, so I
If
can't...
videos did do so well and you didn't sell them so quickly, you might be able to look after them for a little bit.
You're too kind, yeah. Okay, thank you. So Tom, before starting the business, you were a salesman for Swatch. I guess you'll have an opinion on the recent collabs between Swatch and Omega and Swatch and Blancpain. The community seems to be split between great affordable fun that could potentially lure a new generation of buyers into horology and gimmicky marketing which reduces Omega and Blancpain by the group.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail. I don't want to sit on the fence, but there is pros and cons for both.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the Omega Swatch collaboration didn't make sense.
Okay.
I know Omega want to be as big as Rolex, and they're not. And I know they have competition from Cartier, and I know that they need some oomph behind them. And I know, like you mentioned earlier on, it increased sales in the Speedmaster as well. But I don't think Omega needed that as a brand. And as the gentleman to the left of me is a Speedmaster owner, I don't think it offered too many benefits. I think it did devalue the Speedmaster quite a bit, and we've seen that in our own reactions. And when we've posted it on social media, people have said, "Oh well, you know, I've got a moon swatch; it's the same thing." The Blancpain, terrible pronunciation, but the Blancpain swatch collaboration, I think, has some more benefits.
At least it's waterproof.
It's waterproof. It's an automatic movement, albeit terrible. The System 51 is a dog shit movement.
No, you're all good here.
But it's a terrible movement. But Blancpain really need that oomph.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the brand that needs the exposure.
Yeah, I think these brands within Swatch Group, and I mean, my only criticism is we've seen it with brands before, and I know we've touched on this, but Tag did this 30, 40 years ago when they were taken over. Well, Hoya was taken over by Technique Avant-Garde, and we saw the Formula Ones in the plastic and. Again, all of that Hoya heritage was immediately devalued to a plastic Formula One watch.
Yeah.
Now I know those have gone on to be iconic, and Tag Heuer have made a bit of a resurgence, and that's great.
Cool now.
And they actually have done some great stuff recently. But I think it's good for Blancpain. It gets exposure to the brand, which was necessary. Again, and I know people who work at Swatch, but you did the launch completely the wrong way. Put it in the Blancpain stockists. Put it in the window. Lure people in. Show them how much.
I think about the experience of, you have to buy a Swatch, but you have to go buy it at the Blancpain boutique.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Show it next to the Blancpains. Get somebody sat down showing you the Blancpain Scuba. Yeah, it's not a great watch, but here's the original 50 Fathoms or the modern 50 Fathoms it was based on. And you can see the differences. I think it's good for Blancpain, terrible for Omega. And I think, honestly, controversially, I think Swatch are in desperate need of sales. And I know that's scary to say, but if you look at brands that have depreciated recently, I used to work for Longines particularly, and I love Longines, but as a brand, they are in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's really interested. We're seeing it with Blancpain, we're seeing it with Breguet. They need that oomph, and if this gives them that oomph, that's great, but it wouldn't be the way that I'd have done it. I think there's a lot of heritage you could have played on without making plastic watches.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting to hear your take on that, because I have I'm less fussed about the brands that are doing the collabs, and I'm more interested in the sort of romantic side of it, which is all these young kids deciding not to buy an Apple Watch, get something to start with, and then will I see them in 10 years when they're bankers and whatever? I don't know. But the thing is, you know, it's getting people into something that isn't a computer on your wrist that you can take phone calls on, you know, and the fact that the Blancpain one is waterproof, I think at least, like, you know, that you're getting a watch then where you can actually use it for what it's intended for. I'm sure the movement will crap out at some point, but then by then maybe they've moved on and maybe they're coming to see us for their first Rolex.
And the thing is, they nearly got it perfect with the Scuba 50 Fathoms collaboration. They nearly we covered this in a video. They nearly got it perfect. Then you flipped over the case, man. It was
Nudie branks everywhere.
They've got sea slugs on there. Just make it true to the original.
Yeah.
Right? Is it the Antarctic one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Non-date. They've little details.
Everyone likes that one the most.
And it's a great watch, but Blank Pan are massive on conservation and all this sort, so they put a disposable movement in it.
Yeah.
It's just,
The NATO straps made from old fishing
well,
nets.
the
There you
turtles can sleep at night, but at the end of the day, the movement's going in the bin.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think, and again, I could get very passionate about this, and you've touched on a wound that I can passionate about. Swatch needed it just as much.
Yeah.
When I left the Swatch group, they closed the vast majority of Swatch stores. They were not doing the turnover. Nobody was going out and buying a Swatch. You know, they didn't have the jellyfish lure like they used to.
Yeah.
People were, like you say, going out and buying Apple Watches. If that brings that back, that's great. But Swatch needed it. Swatch group as a group needed it. Hopefully it does them some good, but you won't catch me in one for a little while.
No, there you go. Good answers. Thank you so much. So guys, we're coming to the end now. I've got some watches to show you.
Awesome.
But final question. What is your one grail watch to end them all? Imagine a world where you can only wear, and don't be coming at me with any of these little random things. I want to hear grail.
Oh man, that's like asking like two parents to pick which children they want to keep for the rest of their lives. Like,
That's your calculator job done.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first. I need to think about
Oh, I'm trying to think about it now. Right, I think the way you should do this is, close your eyes, think about it. First watch that comes to your mind is probably the one
Okay.
that you want the most. And I'm not going to take full advantage of being able to have like a money is no issue.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go for the watch that I probably want the most.
Yeah.
Right now, as we're filming this, it's the white gold Daytona with the blue dial.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I could wear that everywhere.
Of course.
Yeah, bastard, that was going to be me.
You're allowed to choose this thing.
No, I'm gonna. You said close.
We
my
can
eyes.
share.
Yeah.
When you said close my eyes in the first watch that came to mind, honestly, it was a day-day.
Yeah.
It was a day-day, and I know I mentioned it in there, but a white dial day-day would be the one I'd go to.
And I think this reflects us quite well because we're massive on, just going for what you like.
Yeah.
And even when money's no object, there's no point picking the most expensive watch just because no money's no object in this beautiful hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
But going for something you really, really want, and that's what we're massive on.
Yeah.
I've just realised you've got a 6263 there, so I might
So,
change my mind very quickly.
I'm so happy
This is
that,
gonna change our
yeah,
minds.
this is going to segue us in nicely. So I actually picked 3 personal grails. I'm wearing one, and I've got a mix of vintage and modern, which is like what we did in our first video, and I also have some vintage surprises for the end. So let's get started and go into a few of these. So we've mentioned it so much throughout the video. Here we go. Yeah.
Lift these off.
So we've mentioned it so much throughout the video that I think it's crazy not to start there. And this is the yellow gold 6263. It's 1987. It missed my birth year by 1 year. Otherwise, I'd have bought it myself. And these, thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. A few drinks in him. And this is truly special. So please have a little look and see if it might, sway you on. Yeah, exactly.
The fact it's from the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's gold and black. Very decadent. It's the Wall Street thing.
That's what
The
I was
solid
going to
gold
say.
card,
That's what I was going to say. This is like the boss's watch, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
it's the smaller sizing,
Yeah.
which I've banged on about this whole time.
yeah. Oh, and it fits. You have to buy it. Get your card out.
Yeah, I know. I love these. I love the feeling of the older style oyster links.
Yes.
The rivets.
Yeah.
I think it was, at this time, I'm pretty sure it was Jasper who said that people were going for lightness over heft, and now you've got a nice watch and you go, oh, it feels quality because it's heavy.
Yeah.
Whereas at this time, people were going for stuff that was slightly lighter, and that was the sign of quality back then. It's just perfect, really, isn't it? I can see myself on a yacht that I don't own in Monaco.
Yeah.
Just renting it for the weekend, but rocking this bad boy. It's absolutely fantastic. I love black and gold.
The
combo.
lip between the bezel and the crystal, like everything about it, I could stare at it for hours. I love that watch.
Yeah, you want to go on this.
I'm
now,
staring at it saying, if you fancy sharing.
Yeah.
And I just think it's crazy with these that I think when we touched on this last time, they were so unpopular when they were launched.
Yeah.
People would have looked at that and walked out with a date just over
Yep.
of a day date. But
It's just cool, isn't it?
it is epic. And I know there's the 14 karat version, the 18 karat version. I would go for this version, the 18 karat. I think it is perfect. This is. You don't need another Daytona.
No.
Not this realistic, do you?
You see, so it's good as well that you say that, because obviously it's not always about value. The 6262 Paul Newman is worth more than that watch, but actually I think just on total like showiness of it,
Yeah.
I think I'd probably choose
This
that.
reminds me of the whole era of like the Jackie Stewart F1 days.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool.
Yeah.
When people wearing watches like this, and Marlboro sponsored the cars.
Yeah.
Everything was way cooler back then. I think having that's a little portal into that time.
It's like, so you can imagine leaning on a yacht in Monaco,
Yeah.
watching 80, smoking Marlboro cigarettes. Back then it was cool. You've got Phil Collins playing in the background, and you're living the life, and that is.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about watches; it takes you back to
Yeah,
that time.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it.
There you go. Sorry, I'll
So
give you that
it's
back.
fine, please. So guys, the 6263 is the only watch I'm showing today, which is POA. So if anyone wants to ask about this watch, you just get in touch with me on my WhatsApp number below, and I'll move on to what I'm wearing on my wrist today, which is the complete other end. But if you know me and you watch my videos, you'll know that the white drives me wild. I don't know what it is. So the white perpetual calendar AP, I just love white watches. I think they're so cool, and I think obviously they're a bit silly, but it's just there's something about that fuck you money, okay? And this is right up there with my list. And also I'm really keen on the red here, so the white and the red. This is the Richard Mille Japan edition. It's one of only 50 pieces. You get this red, lovely around the crown there, and I just think this, a racing machine on the wrist, RM30 Japan edition, that is such a good watch.
Like for me, Richard Mille is I'd probably say none of their watches is something I would wear, but I do really respect them. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But when you look at what goes into these and the quality inside, and like you say, a racing machine on the wrist, these watches are engineered to an insane standard. If you're a sporty guy who wants something mega, you love watches, you love horology, you love all of that, but you want to be able to wear it in realistically 99% of scenarios you can possibly imagine. Richard Mille is the way to go.
That watch, whenever I'm wearing white trainers, okay, and a white t-shirt, that watch, it just, the way it goes,
Pops.
It's not a winter piece, I suppose. It is a summer piece.
I love that.
Yeah.
Not a winter. Straight in the snow, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, the snow, very good. Skiing it would work.
You see, the thing, like you said, they're just the whole slogan of Richard Mille. They're pieces of the basically racing machines on your wrist, and that is really.
You know, I have no thing. I've said many times on the channel, they're completely Marmite. I totally get it. The purists go mad. It's a waste and da da da. No, they are special.
If everyone spent a day in a watchmaking factory, everyone would have very aligned opinions on Richard.
That's a very good point.
If you also got to experience their customer service, it is incredible. It's absolutely. When they were working with McLaren and we were an RM stockist, the customer experience was absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah, the customer experience is fantastic, especially when you're paying them £2,200 for a strap.
Probably have to wait about 6 months for it as well.
Oh yeah, you're on a list. You can only have 2 a year.
Here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we keep all the straps, so our customers can choose whichever colour they want. Okay, and then I do have some surprises which I've mentioned, but last but not least, this is extremely special. We are so proud of this watch. I show it off nearly all chances I get. As current time of filming, there's about 3 people I know with this watch. It's Ed Sheeran, LeBron James, Crown Prince of Oman, and me. So yeah, exactly that. And this is the Royal Oak blue ceramic perpetual calendar. Now, this isn't a limited piece. They haven't given any numbers of how many of these they've made. But as a man who lives on Instagram and, I see these things, this watch is hard to find, okay? Really, really hard to find. And that's why I'm so proud of it.
It's pretty awesome. This is one of the outliers for me. Like, this is a watch that normally wouldn't, go into my taste. I like very classic looks, but this I can make the exception for.
Yeah,
for sure. It is super special. And ceramics are notoriously hard material to work with, isn't it? In the watchmaking world, to get this sort of level of finishing, colouring, it's very, very impressive. There is other brands that do similar stuff, but no one does it like AP. No one does it like AP. And super complicated watch.
I was going to say, even just down to the way you set that watch, I'm obsessed with it. You get the little pusher. It's just, it's heaven. It's like I almost sometimes I hope that I'm going to have to set it because that's part of like the enjoyment for me. It fits, and he's wearing the right stuff. Boys, you're both going to have to get your cards out.
The thing is with this as well is, like you say, it's such a complicated watch, but the way that they've actually laid out the dial, it's so clean.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too complicated.
One of my bugbears with a lot of watches these days is, you'll have really traditional, complicated pieces, and then they'll wrap a modern aesthetic around it. I don't think it works a lot of the time. Absolutely nailed it with this.
Yeah.
Everything's just, it's like a perfect harmony.
Of
the watch. Everything works so well.
It's the best blue I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's really light.
It is indeed. Yeah, the ceramic is light, and the finishing on the ceramic is the same as their steel. Okay, so when you see the lines going down, it's exactly as good as with AP steel, which we know is probably the best finishing in the game. So they've actually managed to do that with ceramic, which is just.
I was getting lost in the moon phase complication with little speckles of stardust.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Very, very special watch, and this one priced at £445,000.
Take two.
Yeah, that is a real showpiece, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. The thing is, I picked these three. I wanted to do a little mix, which will actually bring me on to the next part of the video, which is the final part of our video. And I promised you guys a little surprise, so let me get my little surprise out. Here's a few I prepared earlier. Okay, so boys. Let me feel which one's heavier. Okay. Yeah. So a little clue in here. We're going to the beach today.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Okay. So today I have all four as a perfect set.
We show them together.
Yes, please do. Yeah. All four as a perfect set. The beach Daytonas. If anyone's interested in these, I have a full video on my channel of all four. But gentlemen, please, let me get you started.
This one's calling your name.
Is it the pink one?
Yes. I think it would be.
So interestingly enough, the pink one is the one I chose to wear when I filmed with all four of these. Nice. And I don't know, there's something about it. It drives me mad. Real men wear pink.
Well, yeah, Tom's Kennedy is coming out already.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Superb.
Yeah, these are awesome.
No, it's not superb, is it? It's sublime. I actually could get on board.
See, I told you, the pink one always goes for some reason.
The thing about watches, trying them on.
Yeah, of course.
Because you've seen it on Instagram.
Of course.
The only issue I would have with this pink one is if it is going to the beach and my complexion, I would also go pink.
Yeah.
So I would just blend in with the
Yeah.
I don't know which one I like more.
I know which one it is for me. Immediately.
I think it's between these two. But this is the thing, again, this is, I feel like Rolex gets a really bad name for being boring, and like you see stuff like this.
Yeah.
You see the stellar dials, and
you need to realise as well, when you're looking at these beach things, how far ahead of the curve Rolex were. Yeah. They were ahead of everyone. These colours, they would have been like completely laughed at the time. Yeah. And it's like, look at everyone now, obsessed with colour. Colour seems to be coming into every single brand. Look how far ahead they were.
What a fun set as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, these come as a set with you guys, and if you had them as a set, like you and your partner, for example, could all wear different watches all the time.
Yeah.
Just keep them for yourself. I know I would.
See, I mean, that is a watch and a half.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I like the fact that even though they are a set, you've got like the different dial finishes as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Not all the same.
I mean, if you go out on a Saturday night, how many Daytonas do you see?
Yeah. No, very good.
This is the point.
Yeah. So the beach Daytonas are being sold as a full set, £400,000, and every single one comes with the box, which is the absolute key. I've seen just beach Daytona boxes being sold for like 20k. And so they all come full set box and papers, and we're being sold as a whole set because it would be a crime to split these up now they've come together. An interesting fact I have about the Rolex beach Daytonas is there is no record of anyone buying all four from an AD ever. There is no record of that. So the fact that when you get 4 together, it would be crazy to sell them separately.
Once in a lifetime opportunity.
Exactly that. And the thing is as well, we talk about, I mean, you know, people say, oh, investment pieces and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe you're not going to buy, well, I suppose Japan edition is limited. So, you know, there is that. But if you buy these 4 watches as they're set, you know, lock them away for 15 years, you're going to see these things in an auction.
Yeah.
Which one would you go for?
I think the blue.
Really?
I'm
glad
the
you
blue.
said that because I'm set on the green.
I'm sticking with my pink. So we're all fine. There's been no...
Nobody wants to be yellow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we're all good. My trusty cameraman would love the yellow.
Yeah, I think Lewis would like the yellow.
Lewis would like the yellow.
Yeah.
Comfy watch.
Might have to buy it.
They are fantastic. I absolutely love them.
Selection of Daytonas.
Yeah, I'm so glad you boys have enjoyed them.
This is something I've never seen in the flesh.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And seeing all 4 at once is...
Well,
it's not
yeah.
gonna- you're not going to get anywhere else.
I've never seen them for sale anywhere else, not all 4. Yeah, Jardin du Mayfair. Heaven on earth for the watch enthusiast.
Fantastic.
Yeah, colourful is what I wanted to do today. I think the thing is in our video together, which I hope people will go and check out, you know, I really gave an overview. So I wanted to do something a bit more fun and a bit more cool today, because I think we did 3 vintage, 3 modern in our video together, didn't we? So check that one out, guys. And listen, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Listen, you know, it's been an absolute honour, and I hope we do more stuff together as your journey continues. Yeah, Watches and Wonders will be there. Absolutely. And you know, you guys are doing really well. Your Instagram, you're growing. We'll get some links in there for these guys. And thank you so much for joining us. Please do hit subscribe and go and check out these gentlemen's channel. And we will see you on the next one. Jardin du Mayfair. Thank you so much.
Thank you.